Hi everyone, it's Konrad Bobilak here, CEO of 21st Century Property Direct. I'm here today in Gladstone, one of the boom towns in Australia, which is experiencing amazing growth. And I'm here today with Graham from Elders Real Estate. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you very much, Konrad.
Now, Graham, you're a local here. You've been working in this industry in Gladstone for how many years now?
I've been working in real estate for about 6 years, and prior to that I worked in the power electricity industry for 30 years in Gladstone.
Fantastic. So you've got a really good knowledge of the local industry and what's happening in Gladstone. Before we go in and talk about different aspects of real estate, tell me about the market here. What's the consumer sentiment like? What are people feeling? What's the industry? Because in the major capital cities, we're getting a lot of articles about doom and gloom. You know, the mining sector's over. China is not importing as much coal as they used to because of all the pollution problems they're having. But what's really happening here on the ground in Gladstone?
The market is quite strong, and the beauty about investing in Gladstone is that it has got a huge diversification of industries. It's got Queensland's largest power station, it's got one of the biggest aluminium refineries in the Southern Hemisphere, it's got a second aluminium refinery here. There is one of the largest coal export terminals here in Australia. There's a chemical plant that makes sodium cyanide and nitropyl for the explosive industry. There's a very huge cement plant here, and there's a very large aluminium smelter, just to name a few. And the beauty of investing in Gladstone is you've got such a diversity of industry, you're not relying on one industry for growth and sustained growth.
Which is quite amazing because so you really have 6 different industries here functioning at the same time, with probably LNG being the biggest one. And in the future, there's a lot of demand for LNG because of the nuclear power plants shutting down around the world. China's looking at importing and increasing imports of liquefied natural gas to generate electricity. So would you say that compared to towns like Moranbah and other areas where they're relying on one industry, would you say that Gladstone is a little bit less volatile in those towns?
A little bit less volatile, and the other thing with Moranbah, some of those coal mining towns, they've just got one company and one industry, which makes them a little bit sus in terms of investing there, because if the company goes belly up or whatever, the whole town goes belly up, where Gladstone doesn't have that sort of environment.
And you've got 60,000 people here, so you've got a really good central population. You've got the ports, which is just behind us. I can feel there's a lot of energy in town. What are the locals feeling like? Is there what's the sentiment around town in Gladstone?
The locals are really pleased with what's happening. It's sort of bringing money into the town. There's a lot of engineering firms that are making money out of it. So it's quite a positive environment.
Fantastic. Now you're in real estate yourself. You've been there for 6 years?
Been in real estate for 6 years, yes.
Tell us about the property market in Gladstone. What has it been doing for the last 6 years?
Particular note, in 2011 it was extremely strong. We couldn't keep up with the stock up to the people that were wanting to buy. Rents were very, very, very strong, and they continue to grow. Typically it sort of comes and goes a little bit, but vacancy rates have generally been around 2%, 2.5%.
Which is quite incredible. Now, I understand Elders has quite a substantial rent book in terms of properties on your books. How many properties do you currently manage?
Not entirely sure, but I think there's about 800, I think.
800 or 900 from my research. So when you consider a 2 or 3% vacancy rate, and that includes, from my understanding, apartments, older properties, as well as new properties.
That's correct, yeah. There's been a lot of new properties come on the market in the last 3 or 4 years, of which Elders Real Estate have sold the majority and lion's share of those, and we're doing quite well out of it as far as getting the rental properties after they're sold.
Fantastic. Let me ask you a question. If you took the old stock out of the equation, you know, the properties that were built in the 50s, 60s and 70s, if you took out apartments and units out of the equation and you just had a vacancy rate calculated based on brand new 4-bedroom houses, gut feeling vacancy rate?
I would have thought it'd be around 2%, something like that, 2 and a bit percent.
Fantastic. So, and in terms of renting stock, if someone a lot of investors are listening to this right now, considering buying a 4-bedroom house, how quickly could you rent something once the house is built? How many weeks do you have to wait to get a tenant?
Traditionally, over the last year or two, it's a matter of weeks usually, at the most a month, but that also depends on how much the landlord's requiring in rent. But if it's sensible, they do rent within a few weeks or a month at the most.
That's fantastic. We've been reading a lot of amazing figures coming out of Gladstone. You know, the last three property booms in Gladstone were on the back of $1 billion and $2.5 billion projects. Now, from my understanding, there's about $20 billion that's already going through construction, and a further, $40 billion that's also coming on board. So you got 69 billion, I think, happening at once, between 2011 and kind of 2025. What impact do you think that will have on the property market here, given that the market is only producing 800-900 homes per year?
It's having a dramatic effect on the market because the LNG companies themselves are spending about $60-70 billion, and there are quite a few other projects around $5 billion, and a raft of projects that are of a mere $100 million and things like that. And that's going to continue on for quite some years. The workforce hasn't built up to its maximum here for the LNG plants as yet, and the LNG companies are reportedly going to build additional process trains as well. So the construction of LNG plants may well continue on for some years yet when they build additional trains. And there is a fourth LNG plant they're proposing to be built by Arrow and Shell, and they're doing their environmental impact studies at the moment, which presumably would be another $30 billion.
That's incredible. These numbers are so staggering, it's hard to relate to them. $1 billion or $50 billion. I know that, reading a lot of media now, China is growing, there was media hype that China's slowing down. Now it's growing at 8%. They're relocating 225 million people from regional areas into the cities of China, which is incredible. They're building something like 97 airports in the next 10 years. All those kind of building requirements require obviously commodities from Australia, and LNG is one of those things that is in high demand. My question to you is, what do you think is going to happen? I know you've worked in the industry for 30 years and you're a qualified engineer by trade?
Yes, I'm a qualified mechanical engineer.
Do you have a lot of friends in the industry around Gladstone that work in different mines and different related industries?
My wife and I, who both sell real estate, have been in Gladstone since 1976, 1977. So we've established a very large base of friends in and around the town and in and around the industries as well.
Do you think the sentiment here is that this is going to continue? Because a lot of investors are asking the question, have we missed all the booms? There's three booms that occurred in the last kind of 12 years. A lot of the questions are, have we missed Gladstone? Has the growth already occurred? Or do you think we're at the beginning of the next phase of another boom that's coming, but because everyone's so negative out there, they're just not seeing it?
Yeah, no, I think it'll just steam on as it has. 2011 was a huge year, and now it's just boiling along, so to speak, and I've got no doubt in my mind that we'll have another 2011, but in between 2011 and now it has been quite busy. It's all relative, We think it's sort of backed off a little bit, but it's much stronger than anywhere else in Australia.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your time, Graham. Thank you for your time.